The way I interpreted her, I think the the first one was more sepia tone, and then the second was more of those warmer um, yellows and yellow and ochres and flesh tones.
Hmm.
So almost to illuminate her or make her seem, yeah, like she's glowing in a way for people to seek refuge here. Um, and then, yeah, ultimately it led to, her being murdered. Um, yeah, it's just awful. I think her life was amazing, and I think to commemorate her, memorialize her, it's more than I think just her specifically. I think it can resonate with a lot of people that come to America who
Hmm.
seek refuge here and want a new life and want to live that quote unquote American dream. Yeah, I think this will will stay in my memory for years to come.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our audience from around the globe. This is your host, Sid, and welcome back to the Sit Down with Sid podcast, where we bring people together one conversation at a time. Joining us today is Ben Keller, a world renowned muralist whose canvas has shifted from the grit of graffiti culture to the heights of the American skyline. Ben has become the artistic force behind a series of massive, hauntingly beautiful memorials dedicated to Iryna Zarutska, a young artist who fled war only to lose her life in a tragedy that has sparked a national controversy on public safety. Through his collaboration with some of the most influential figures in tech and advocacy, Ben is doing more than just painting portraits. He's ensuring that a story of loss becomes a permanent landmark of public memory. Ben, it is a privilege to have you with us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Privileged to be here.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the time. And so, Ben, tell us more about your journey. You started with influences like Barry McGee and graffiti
Mm,
culture. How did you go from tagging or traditional street art to being the go-to artist for these massive, high-profile memorials?
mm. It was a long evolution for sure. I started when I was a teenager, just trying to get familiar with the spray can, and really just, saturate myself in that street art graffiti culture. I didn't even have any intention at first to paint murals necessarily, but that that story is interesting because when I got in trouble at a young age with the law as, like a vandal, that to to make myself seem more innocent in the eyes of the court, I basically did a lot of community service, but or not community service, but I built up a portfolio of uh, you know, pro bono murals around the town that I was living at the time to make it appear as if I'm giving back to the community and I'm not just defacing property. So that basically set the stage for me to then have a portfolio to bring to clients down the road and say, hey,
Mhm.
look at these murals I've painted. But yeah, it was spawned out of that that like graffiti culture foundation. So without that, I don't think I would be where I am today. So, but yeah, that then, gradually I started painting, for profit, meeting clients and business owners, companies, and honestly, it's just been word of mouth ever since, really. I don't advertise besides, what I post on social media. But they the project with Arena, that one, I think that just came to me through some friends that saw the post on X, and I wasn't on there at the time yet, but
Mhm.
they forwarded it to me and said, "Hey, you should reach out to these people and see if they." they want to work with you. I'm like, oh, okay, like maybe they won't respond, maybe they will. I was like kind of skeptical at first, and so I didn't hear back for a few months, but then finally I did, and they had a wall for me, I think like that week in Washington, D.C. I was like, oh, we got to move quick, like I was a little like preoccupied. But I was like, okay, I'll just drop everything, um, just to get my foot in the door, and that's the first one I did. And then the week after, I think, was the start of the wall in Bushwick in Brooklyn. So it was really just back to back.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there are thousands of tragic stories every year. What was it about Iryna Zarutska's story, the 23-year-old fleeing war only to be killed in a Charlotte train, or that felt so different for you to draw her?
Right. That I have some Ukrainian friends,
Hmm.
and um I think Arena's story resonated with me because just of the people I know from that region of the world. Um and also just the reality of like how much different, certain other countries around the world are, what they're experiencing day to day versus what, we as Americans, we're so blessed to, not be invaded right now or not be um, at war, at least on our own home territory. So for people to seek refuge here, um, and then yeah, ultimately it led to, her being murdered. Um, yeah, it's just awful. And so I think raising awareness to um, the just the mental illness that exists in this country and the actions that people take as a result of that. I don't know. I think I think if that man wasn't released from jail, that woman probably would have never died. And so I think there just needs to be more accountability from certain people in certain states. So, but yeah, I think her life was amazing, and I think to commemorate her, memorialize her, it's more than I think just her specifically. I think it can resonate with a lot of other people, a lot of people that come to America who
Hmm.
seek refuge here and want a new life and want to live that quote unquote American dream. Um, and it's worth fighting for.
Wow. Very well said, Ben.
Thank
I
you.
know you had mentioned that you were on Twitter at one point, X, and you had your friends who said, hey, why don't you reach out? So I want to ask you, how did the collaboration with Eoghan McCabe and Elon Musk happen, who are the two biggest donors in terms of financial compensation for this project? Did they find you, or did you pitch them in person? How did that process evolve?
Yeah. So I'm still on X. I think I joined right after the project started just to have a page there. But um Eoghan, I've never communicated directly with him or Elon
Hmm.
uh, during the duration of this whole project. Um, they're obviously running giant companies, so this they have someone else, they have another team that is involved in curating and managing the communication side for the mural project. But I didn't even know they were behind the project at first. I didn't join for that reason.
Hmm.
But when I became aware of it, I was like, oh wow, this is like pretty big. Um, so yeah, I've never spoken with them directly. But it seems like they're still in full support of pushing this project and to see it grow. And I don't know how long it's going to continue for.
Hmm.
I think there's eventually going to be some sort of cutoff, but we'll see.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong. You have painted arenas, murals in uh, Bushwick, as you mentioned,
Yep.
Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Miami, Los Angeles, and Charlotte. How do you maintain the soul of a person when you're scaling a face up to 3 or say 8 stories tall?
Mm. So I haven't painted the ones in Miami and Charlotte, but
Okay.
I am still scouting walls, potential walls for future sites. I mostly am trying to like uh concentrate on the states closer to where I live because the team that's running the project, they're working with artists around the country, and they're the
Mhm.
ones that are painting in like LA, all these other states. But when I scale it out from the sketch to the wall, I'll usually use a method called the grid method or the doodle grid method. So I have an image of it's sort of hard to articulate verbally without like having a visual to depict it, but I basically take a photo of the surface after putting some marks on it, just with brush or spray can, just to put markers, and then those serve as um, they serve as reference points for overlaying the design or the photograph that you're working from, the reference material, on top of that picture. And then you decrease the opacity on the photo, and that reveals all those markers that I drew on originally, like I said, and those dictate um, where the each facial feature lies or element of the design, so you can kind of use that as as a preliminary step to get your proportions down and have that strong base, and then you can start painting on top of that. So it's a it's a slow process at first, but once you have that sketch on the wall, then it's then the fun begins.
So it seems to be a very rigorous process all the way starting from, because once again, if you start painting with the spray can, then and if it's something is wrong, it's hard to correct it. So
Right,
I can understand why the sketching makes such a big difference. And I mean, listen, you're not drawing a small, you're drawing 3 to 8, you're drawing big murals.
right.
And I have seen the one in Bushwick. It's mind-boggling. No, I mean, I have
Oh, you
seen it
see
in
it?
person. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's just, listen, I was on X for a long time, and when this came out story, and that's the first time I heard your name. And
Oh, wow.
when I saw what you did, I can feel something when I look at it, you know?
Mm,
So so my
wow.
follow-up question to you on that is, since Iryna was an aspiring artist herself,
Mhm.
did that influence you how you choose to render her? Are there specific symbols that we should look for in her murals?
Yeah, it definitely was a nice reminder or motivation, like underlying the whole process. Another part of the rigorous element of it was the fact that I was doing both of these in the winter, and the one specifically in Brooklyn, it was so cold, like there was snow everywhere for a few of the days. But the the way I interpreted her, I think the the first one was more sepia tone, and then the second was more of those warmer um, yellows and yellow and ochres and flesh tones.
Hmm.
So almost to illuminate her or make her seem, yeah, like she's glowing in a way. But um, yeah, along that process, I have I usually use my iPad to
Hmm.
create the digital design or the digital rendering, and then interpret that. It eventually takes on a life of its own in the painting process, and I just I have the sketch as my reference, but organically it just grows into something else, because ultimately once you're on the wall, once you're painting, um, you can interpret a few things differently. But yeah, I was definitely keeping in mind um, trying to represent her to the best of my ability so that it looks like her, but with my own twist.
Okay. Ben, I have a question. I know you had brought this up that you're working with the team. So now,
Mhm.
when you're looking for the walls to paint in different cities, is that your responsibility or is that their responsibility to go with the town and the permits, and your job is just to do the murals?
Combination. I'd say it's like a 50-50 split.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
So
must include a lot of traveling on your end as well.
yes. Yeah. It's a big investment of time for
Okay.
sure. Yeah. So
Okay.
some of them come more easily than others, but
Hmm.
right now for if I were to paint more, I would have to it's up to me to scout out the walls, get the permission, the consent from the landlord,
Hmm.
inform them what the project is about, um, and then go from there.
Okay. And then how does the local neighborhoods reaction, say, for example, in Bushwick or Greenbelt, have those affected your work while you're still on the ladder painting her mural?
Everyone was actually reacting really positively um, in person. It's the people online that were bringing on some of the controversy and the hate. But yeah, everyone in person, I mean, for the most part, I'd say like 95% were if they weren't familiar with the project already or familiar with Iryna and her story, then I would tell them and they're like, oh yeah, and it kind of re revive their memory,
Hmm.
and then they like, oh yeah, I think I heard about that in the news, um, and they thought it was great. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people
Uh,
were digging it.
the reason I brought that up is because that was from the people's perspective, but some critics have also called these murals as a political propaganda
Right,
because of the high profile funding. So
right.
how do you respond to the idea that your art that you have put your heart and soul in is being weaponized for a political narrative?
Yeah, um, yeah. The fact that if the people funding the project weren't those individuals, I don't think it would have turned political at all. You know, and it's not they're not at fault for funding it, but it's
Hmm.
like if it was just out of pocket, or if it was like all of my own finances or, came from local donors,
Hmm.
not these like big recognized, you know, renowned names, then I don't think it would have turned political at all because those people wouldn't have any reason to attach the project or make it political
Hmm.
for to begin with. Um, but yeah, things just I think people just politicize anything they can just to take a side and to start an argument or controversy. And it's sad, honestly, that it has to go there. When who we're remembering, I don't think
Hmm.
she wanted to politicize any of it to begin with,
Of course.
Right. We're just remembering Iryna, not like trying to cause arguments or disagreements. So, but
So, wow. So now, these murals are tied to Irina's law and the debate over repeat offenders and public safety.
mhm.
So since you're painting these murals, do you feel a responsibility to be, say, a spokesperson for these law, or do you prefer to let the painting do the talk?
Yeah, I I think the latter. I let the painting do the talking
Okay.
because I I have my own opinion, but I don't, I don't think it's necessarily my place as an artist personally
Hmm.
to become like this political advocate or like I yeah, I'd rather just let my art speak for itself. And I know it's kind of cliche, but for something like this, I just want it to be pure and innocent, and people can just appreciate the final result without, causing all this uproar. But if
Hmm.
someone wants to have that conversation, I'm definitely willing to discuss um, like I said earlier, some issues that I think can be addressed and people can be more accountable, and check up on those that are let out of, incarceration, and
Hmm.
make sure they're like mentally well to be in the public space. Um, you know, Better security and, um, proper recourse when something like this happens on, a public transit system in a large city like Charlotte. So, um, yeah, I have my thoughts.
And how do you deal with the personal criticism? I'm sure that, especially painting around here, you might have gotten few comments or remarks. Hey, you're supporting,
Yeah,
the MAGA movement.
right. I think at first I was a little phased by it and a little shaken up, but then eventually it's like there's always going to be those types of people, especially on, you know, social media places like Reddit or X. There's always going to be the keyboard warriors, and I think I received threats to my personal email, to my Instagram, and it was new for me because I'm like, oh wow, like I've never really experienced that kind of reaction. Um, I've heard people not being the biggest fans of some stuff I painted, but never like direct threats. So it was a little new for me, but after like a week, it was like, okay, who cares?
Yeah.
It's like this, I guess this just comes with it's part of the package when you're
No,
doing a
no.
project like this.
Yeah. I mean, did you knew what you were getting yourself involved in, or you were like naive? You're like, this is my talent. I'm here to display my talent and art.
Right.
And then this backlash, I'm sure you must have gotten a lot of backlash as well,
Yeah.
uh, came with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And reporters reaching out from, um, you know, more like liberal news media sources, and like trying to form this biased narrative to fit their agenda and frame it in a way where like Ben Keller said this in response to it's just like they're trying to dramatize it, and I guess probably for like clickbait purposes, like
Yeah.
to put some um like I don't know, shocking dramatized header on the article or some quote that I said. The best thing to do is really just like not respond and not engage. And then that, because the more you say, the more fuel for the fire that gives them, uh,
Hmm.
to fit their agenda. So, yeah, best thing you can do sometimes is just to walk away and just, yeah, ignore it. And eventually it honestly just sizzles out because then they'll find the next talking point the next week,
Hmm.
and then they'll just forget this one altogether.
I mean, I'm sure this must have helped your publicity to take you as to the next level. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you're not just a known person now just here. A lot of people know you because you're talked about by even Elon Musk mentioned your name in one of his posts with
Yeah,
235 million followers. So you're not now you're someone who is a part of a movement.
right. Yeah, it feels cool. I've never been part of something this large, so it was pretty awesome. Yeah, I saw that. That definitely made me feel pretty recognized.
Let me ask you now, have you been in contact with, say, Irina's family or her relatives in Ukraine?
I haven't, but I, like I said, I have a couple friends from Ukraine. Um, they don't know her directly, but it's just cool to get to know, you know, that culture and, um, people from that country and their own experiences of coming here to America, just like her seeking refuge, trying to start a new life. Um,
Hmm.
but no, I did see her mom on television though for Trump's State of the Union address, right? And I
Yes.
think I think he recognized her. So that was pretty cool. That was very moving.
Well, the reason I brought that up is because uh, you mentioned, some of your friends are Ukrainians here.
Hmm.
And they didn't know them personally, but let me ask you, what does it mean to them to see her face become a permanent part of the American skyline? I mean, it's a proud
Right.
moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is. Um, they were pretty moved by it. And when I told them who I was painting and why I was painting it, they knew immediately who she was, obviously. And so I think it was really cool to have their people represented, um, regardless of the reason, just to to bring um to bring recognition to what's going on still in Ukraine, um,
Yeah.
and the people trying to flee from that and seek safety and just start over.
Uh, uh,
Yeah.
then I have a couple of more questions that I want to ask you. Now, after spending months painting the face of someone who is gone, like how do you personally shake it off when the project is done? Does a
Mm,
piece of her story, for example, gonna stay with you for a long time?
certainly. Yeah, I think this will will stay in my memory for years to come. Um, it almost marked a point maybe in my career when
Hmm.
because I was never one to seek participating in a project that turned into something so political or turned
Hmm.
into um this huge talking point online and in real life. So yeah, this whole experience was new for me and definitely marked um a turning point, I guess. And I hope it leads to bigger and better things from here.
No, I'm sure. Listen, as I mentioned, your popularity must have been next level. And since now the media wants to talk to you, uh, you might be seeing a lot of other, say, VCs, venture capitalists, or people who are in the same space try to reach out to you.
Yeah,
So to help them with such projects, Uh,
yeah,
okay. Ben, I also want to actually, I'm going to ask you one question, and then I want to, if that's okay with you, I want to share your website, your Facebook and Instagram, just a
sure.
page with our audience so at least they can check you out. And for our audience, the links are also in the description below. Okay. Now, is there a final city where you would like to paint Iryna Zarutska? And what is the ultimate end game for this campaign in your eyes?
Mm. Sir, Final City. I think painting her in Charlotte would be pretty awesome.
Hmm.
Um, I I was actually there working on another job
Hmm.
earlier this year and looking around town um, after finishing that job, which was completely unrelated to the project. It was for a restaurant, but yeah, I did see some walls, and I have to follow up with those landlords. But just to paint her portrait, even though it's already, I believe, been painted by
Hmm.
another artist there or other artists. Um, yeah, I would love to contribute and put one of my pieces as well. So, um, what was the second part of your question? Sorry.
Like, what is the ultimate
Oh,
end goal for this campaign in your eyes?
yeah. I think I think preserving her memory and her name in the midst of all other you know, global conflicts and just headlines that are happening, because I think there's so much saturation of news and
Hmm.
new events that happen on a daily basis that we forget what just happened last week. It's just like, oh yeah, on to the next. So um, I think keeping her name alive and potentially even keeping other people's names alive that we might not know of it, and these victims that are tragically killed, I think their names are just as valuable as a more recognized individual that tragically died. um so yeah, bringing awareness to that, I think, is really important. So I think it could turn into something huge. I think it could turn into maybe not just preserving Irina's name, but
Hmm.
also other uh, individuals just like her.
Wow. Okay. I want to take a moment to share your let me share your site first before I share your Facebook, and I'll come back to Instagram because I want to show the mural
Oh,
to
cool.
our audience. Okay. So if you don't mind walking us through this, that would be great. Let me just share it. Share. Let's see. Uh, okay. Okay. Let's. So Ben, this is. Let me know if you can see this. Okay, now.
Hmm?
This is Ben's Facebook page, Ben Keller, Harriet.Tumness. So if people want to go check out his art, I mean, look at that mural. How ridiculous that is. I mean, this is beautiful, you know,
Thanks,
like
man.
wow. Ben, how tall is this mural?
This is, I think, 3 stories, approximately like 35 feet tall.
35 feet tall. And then how long did this whole thing take, say, from, as you mentioned, from sketch all the way to this finished part?
I think it was roughly a week and a half off and on because the weather definitely affected the progress on some days. Like in this video, obviously the snow had melted, but man, there were some days where it was rough. So I had to just put the project on hold and wait for the weather to be a little more conducive because you can only paint in like certain temperatures. So when it's below freezing, it's just not the best idea to be out there. But yeah, I think off and on a week and a half.
No, no, keep talking. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the one in DC actually I think was a little shorter just because it was better conditions, a little warmer out. And yeah, the one in Bushwick actually when I started painting it,
This was the one in Bushwick, the one that I showed you.
yep.
Uh, okay, so this one is from Bushwick. Let me just try this because I also want to show the one in Facebook as well.
Hmm.
Uh, okay, 1 second. Let me
Sure.
just try to. Here we go. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to share the screen one more time. I have
Okay.
to log in. Share. Okay. Let me know if you can see the screen. So,
Mm.
uh, okay, so this is the one that we were talking about, which was the Bushwick one. And then
Yep.
I mean, this is beautiful, the swans.
Thank you.
And then you also have, I just saw it, I think it's coming up shortly. Yeah, this one. Okay,
Yep.
so this is the one in DC. And how tall is this one?
That one's a little taller. I think that one was closer to 40 or 45 feet tall.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, that was yeah, that was a little taller actually. It doesn't seem like it, but in person, you get a better sense of the scale. I think there might be a couple photos, not on this particular post, but the one prior to it, with me standing on a scissor lift to kind of showcase the scale.
This one.
But that one, but also the DC one, I was on a scissor lift and posted some photos, I believe.
Oh, right
Yep,
here we go.
like right there. So that kind of gives you an idea of the size.
And how long did it take you to finish this one then?
Hmm. I think was 7 or 8 days. I worked
That fast?
really, yeah, I worked because this one had to be completed so that I could start the one in New York. So, um, I think, I usually do 12-hour, 15-hour shifts.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, working like all day and then into the night with a headlamp on. So, yeah, it's not regular work hours, that's for sure. It's not 9 to 5.
Wow. 12 to
Yeah.
15 hours a day. Yeah.
Yep.
And then this lift and all that, this is your own, you rent it, or is that
I,
provided by the team?
Yeah, I just rented that one. So that just is factored into the overall cost.
I mean, look at
Yeah.
that. I mean, this is so beautiful, Ben. I mean, I have become a total fan of you. You know, I follow your Instagram now, and we like the talent that you possess. There is a reason why you are the one who has been assigned to say paint this story and continue the legacy, not just for her, as you
Mm.
mentioned initially in the beginning, for the other refugees
Hmm.
who come to this country to seek freedom and human rights.
Exactly.
So okay, and then this is your. Let me go to your. Let me. Okay, I also want to share. Sorry.
So,
Yeah. I also want to share your Instagram with our audience.
mhm.
So let me do that as well. Okay, here we go. So this is your Instagram, Ben. And okay, here we go. Okay. So Ben Keller, CT, as you mentioned, you're from Connecticut. So I'm
Yep,
assuming CT stands for Connecticut. And
exactly.
so people can go follow you here as well, check out your work. I mean, beautiful, and it's unbelievable, man. Wow. So so
Thanks,
so
man.
this is so you are on the road all the time. Like this is your thing.
Sort of, yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I wish I wasn't as much on the road, but right now I think I got to fly out to Florida tomorrow actually. So,
Okay.
a little
Yeah.
warmer climate than Connecticut right now.
Listen, big things are happening for you. And this is Ben's website. So once again, the link is in the description. Uh, Ben, so I also see you have available for purchase.
Hmm.
Now, are these paintings or like, for example, something like this?
Hmm.
How big is it? Do you have dimensions on it or just a rough?
That's a 48 by 48 inch canvas. And yeah,
So
all these
48
are
by 48.
originals. All these are
Okay.
originals, oil on canvas. They're
Okay.
just from my personal, you know, collection, passion projects that are, ideas or images that resonate with me, and I just want to put onto a canvas. So sometimes they sell, sometimes they don't. I ultimately would like to have more recognition as like a gallery artist versus a muralist, but um, yeah, I kind of juggle both worlds.
No, no, this is great. Being an
Thanks.
entrepreneur here is great. And I'm assuming you might have few of these on hand. So for example, if someone wants to buy, it's not that you have one or two, you have probably limited stock as well.
Yeah, I could always make a print if someone wanted to inquire about
And how
that.
long does it take, Ben, to make this one? So for example, if you're out of stock and someone orders this, how long would it take for you to do this oil on canvas?
Mm, Turnaround time would probably be 2 weeks, two to
Okay.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, no, no, this conversation was great, Ben. I know
Thanks,
you have
man.
to run, so uh, I want to thank you for your insight into the intersection of art, grief, and the public square. You have given us a profound look at how a portrait can become a movement
Mm.
and how a paint can give a voice to those who no longer can speak for themselves. To
Mm.
our listeners, if this conversation moves you, please subscribe and share this episode to help us spread these vital stories of human spirit across the globe. We will see you on the next episode. Ben Keller, thank you so much for joining us today, and we wish you all the very best, man.
Thank you, Sid. Appreciate it.
You take care. Bye bye.
Bye.